Could they plan for the future? It's a simple question, and the answer is complicated. It depends on who they are. Are we talking about the process of evolution itself? Or are we talking about the creatures that evolution produces? The answer is completely different for each. So let's split it up. First, let's look at the process. Can evolution plan for the future? The short answer is no, not at all. Not even a little bit. Evolution has no brain. It has no consciousness, it has no goals, it's not a thing, really. It's a result. It's the name we give to a process that happens automatically. The process has three basic parts: variation, inheritance, and selection. That's it. Let's start with variation. Every living thing is a little different from its parents and its siblings. Think about a litter of puppies. One might be a bit bigger, one might have slightly better hearing. One might be a faster runner. These differences are mostly random. They come from tiny mistakes or mutations when DNA gets copied. Most of these mistakes don't matter, some are harmful, but every once in a while a random mistake creates a small useful advantage. This is variation, a constant shuffling of the deck. Next comes inheritance. The puppies that survive and grow up pass their traits on to their own puppies. The slightly bigger one might have slightly bigger offspring. The one with better hearing might pass that on. This is simple. You get your traits from your parents, the last part is selection. This is where the environment comes in. The world is a tough place. There isn't enough food for everyone. The predators are always looking for a meal. The weather can be harsh, so not all of those puppies will survive to have their own litters. Which ones are more likely to make it? The ones with the useful advantages. The slightly faster one might escape a predator. The one that's a bit bigger might win a fight for food. The one with better hearing might notice danger sooner. These survivors pass on their winning traits. Over a very, very long time, these tiny advantages add up. The whole population of animals slowly changes to be better suited to its environment. This is natural selection. Notice what's missing from that description. There's no planning. There's no foresight. The process is blind. It's purely reactive. It only cares about what works right now in this specific place at this specific moment. Imagine you have a big bucket of sand with some pebbles and some rocks mixed in. You pour it all onto a screen with medium-sized holes. The sand falls through. The rocks stay on top. The pebbles get stuck in the holes. The screen isn't planning to catch pebbles. It's not thinking. In the future, pebbles might be really valuable, so I'll design myself to catch them. The screen just has holes of a certain size, and the pebbles just happen to be the right size to get caught. The environment is the screen. The different traits in a population are the mix of sand, pebbles, and rocks. Natural selection is just the sorting process. It keeps what works now, it discards what doesn't. Evolution doesn't look ahead. It can't. A deer doesn't start evolving thicker fur because evolution predicts a cold winter is coming in 100 years. What happens is that the winters start getting a little colder, year by year. In each generation of deer, the ones with slightly thicker fur have a tiny advantage. They use less energy to stay warm, they are a little healthier, they have more offspring. The deer with thinner fur struggle more. They have fewer offspring. Over many generations, the whole deer population ends up with thicker fur. They adapted to the cold that was already happening. They didn't prepare for the cold of the future. This is why evolution has so many dead ends. The dinosaurs were incredibly successful. They dominated the planet for millions of years. They were perfectly adapted to the world they lived in. But they weren't adapted for a world where a giant asteroid slams into the Earth, blotting out the sun. The evolution couldn't plan for that. It had no way of knowing it would happen. So when the environment changed dramatically and suddenly their adaptations became useless, and they died out. Evolution is always optimizing for the present, and that can be a huge liability. A creature can become so specialized for one particular environment that it can't handle any change. There are fish that live in one specific cave system and nowhere else. They are perfectly adapted to that dark, stable environment. But if that cave floods with polluted water or collapses, they're gone. Evolution didn't give them a backup plan. So, for the process itself, the answer is a clear no. Evolution is a tinkerer, not an engineer. It works with the parts it has on hand. It messes around, and when something works a little better, it sticks with it for a while. It has no blueprint. It has no 5-year plan. It's just a long, slow, messy process of trial and error. It's the ultimate example of learning on the job. But that brings us to the second, more interesting part of the question. Evolution itself can't plan, but can it create creatures that can plan? And here, the answer is a definite yes. In fact, the ability to plan for the future is one of the most powerful survival tools that evolution has ever produced. But it didn't appear overnight. It came in stages, from the very simple to the incredibly complex. Let's start with the most basic form of future planning. We can call it instinctual planning. This isn't conscious thought, it's a hardwired behavior, a program written into an animal's DNA. The animal doesn't know why it's doing what it's doing, it just feels a powerful urge to do it. The classic example is a squirrel burying a nut. The squirrel is not sitting there in the autumn sun thinking, January is going to be rough this year. The farmer's almanac predicts heavy snow. I'd better diversify my portfolio of buried acorns and walnuts to ensure a steady food supply through the lean months. That's not what's happening in its tiny squirrel brain. The squirrel is just following a simple, powerful instinct. Find a nut, dig a hole, push the nut in, cover it up, repeat. This behavior was built by millions of years of natural selection. Think about ancient squirrels. Some had a stronger urge to bury nuts, others didn't. When winter came, the ones who had buried lots of food were more likely to survive. They found their stashes and ate. The ones who didn't have a strong burying instinct starved. So the nut-burying squirrels passed on their genes, including the genes for that burying instinct. Over time, the instinct became stronger and more refined. The squirrels that were better at remembering where they buried the nuts also did better. So evolution also selected for better spatial memory. The behavior is a solution to a future problem, winter hunger. But the squirrel isn't thinking about the future. It's just running its program. It's an unconscious plan. Hibernation is another great example. A bear doesn't make a conscious decision to hibernate. It doesn't check its calendar and say, well, it's November, time for the big sleep. Its body chemistry does the planning. As the days get shorter and the temperature drops, hormonal changes are triggered. The bear feels an overwhelming urge to eat as much as possible, a state called hyperphagia. It puts on a massive amount of fat. Then its metabolism slows down, its heart rate drops, and it finds a den to wait out the winter. This entire complex process is an evolved strategy for dealing with a predictable future. The future in this case is a long period of time when food is scarce and the weather is cold. The bear's body plans for this by storing energy and shutting down non-essential systems. The bear itself isn't planning, its genes are. Migration is the same story. An Arctic tern doesn't look at a map of the world and plan a route from the Arctic to the Antarctic. It's driven by ancient instincts, guided by the Earth's magnetic field, the position of the sun, and other cues we don't fully understand. The journey is a plan to follow the summer, to always be in a place where food is abundant. But the bird isn't the planner, it's the vessel for a plan that evolution wrote over eons. These instinctual plans are powerful, but they have a big weakness. They only work for predictable futures. They are designed for cycles. The seasons change every year. Day follows night. These are reliable patterns. Instincts can evolve to anticipate these patterns. But what about unpredictable problems? What if a new predator moves into the area? What if the usual source of food dries up because of a disease? Instinct isn't very good at handling surprises. For that, you need something more flexible. You need a brain that can think. This brings us to the next level of planning, cognitive planning. This involves learning, memory, and making a decision. It's about solving a problem in your head before you solve it in the real world. We see this in a lot of intelligent animals. Let's look at a chimpanzee. A chimp might find a termite mound, but it needs a tool to get the termites out. It can't just use its fingers, so it will walk away from the mound, find a suitable twig, strip off the leaves, and then carry the finished tool back to the termite mound to use it. This is a huge leap from burying a nut. The chimp has a goal in mind to get termites. It knows it needs a specific tool, it holds that goal in its mind while it goes to perform a separate task finding and modifying the twig. It is connecting a future action fishing for termites with a present action making a tool. This requires a degree of foresight. It's a simple, short-term plan. I will need this later, so I will get it now. Some apes have even been observed carrying tools with them for long distances, anticipating that they might find a use for them later on their journey. This is even more advanced. It's not just planning for an immediate known task. It's planning for a potential future task. It's like putting a screwdriver in your pocket before you leave the house, just in case you might need it. And birds in the corvid family, crows, ravens, jays, and magpies, are masters of this kind of planning. They are incredibly smart. Scrub jays, for example, are known for hiding food, a behavior called caching. This is similar to the squirrel, but with some crucial differences. Scientists have done experiments where they feed the jays different kinds of food in different rooms. For example, in one room, they always get peanuts. In another room, they always get kibble. Then, the jays are given a chance to hide both peanuts and kibble for later. If a jay knows it's going to be sent back to the kibble room the next morning, where it will only get kibble for breakfast, it will preferentially hide peanuts there. It's planning for a future desire. It knows it will get sick of kibble and will want a peanut instead. It is anticipating a future state of mind. That's not just instinct, that's thinking ahead. The crows in Japan have been seen placing hard-to-crack nuts on the road at intersections. They wait for the traffic light to turn red for the cars, then they hop onto the road and place the nut. When the light turns green, the cars run over the nuts and crack them open. Then, when the light turns red again, the crows fly down and eat the insides. Think about the mental steps required for this. The crow has to understand that cars can be used as a tool. It has to understand the pattern of the traffic lights. It has to connect the stopping of the cars with the safety of retrieving the nut. This is a multi-step plan that involves observing, learning, and predicting the behavior of something else entirely, cars and traffic lights. Even an octopus, a creature so different from us, shows signs of planning. Some have been filmed carrying coconut shell halves across the ocean floor. It's awkward and slow. Why do they do it? They carry the shells until they want to rest. Then they assemble the two halves around themselves to create a temporary shelter, a little armored ball to hide in. They are carrying a tool that has no immediate use, with the sole purpose of using it in the future. They are planning for their own safety. In all these cases, the animals are using their brains to model a future event and acting in the present to prepare for it. This is a huge advantage. It allows them to solve new problems that their instincts haven't prepared them for. It gives them flexibility. How did this ability evolve? The same way everything else does, through natural selection. In any population of ancient apes or birds, there would have been variation in their cognitive abilities. Some were a little better at remembering things, some were a little better at solving problems. These slightly smarter individuals were likely more successful. They found more food. They avoided more predators, they lived longer and had more offspring, they passed on the genes for their slightly better brains. A brain is a very expensive organ to run. It uses a lot of energy. So for evolution to favor bigger, more complex brains, there has to be a big payoff. And the payoff is this flexibility, this ability to plan, the ability to outthink your problems, rather than just relying on pre-programmed instincts is one of the most powerful survival strategies there is. This leads us finally to humans. Human planning is on a completely different level. We are the ultimate planners. The difference between a chimp carrying a tool and a human building a pension fund is immense. The difference is abstraction. An animal can plan for a concrete, foreseeable future. A chimp plans to get termites. A crow plans to eat a nut. A jay plans for its next breakfast. These are all things that are directly related to their immediate survival and desires. Humans can plan for futures that are decades away. We can plan for things that have never happened to us before. We can plan for concepts that don't even physically exist. Think about the concept of retirement. You work for 40 or 50 years. You take a portion of the money you earn, money you could be spending right now on things you want, and you put it away. You don't bury it in the backyard. You put it into a complex financial system of stocks and bonds, an abstract concept represented by numbers on a screen. You do this so that in 30 years, when you are a different person with a different body and different needs, you will have resources to live on. This requires an incredible amount of cognitive horsepower. You have to imagine your future self, a person who doesn't exist yet. You have to trust a complex social and economic system to still be there for you. You have to delay gratification on a massive scale. No other animal can do this. What allows us to do this? The first thing is our brain, specifically the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of the brain right behind our foreheads. It's the CEO of the brain. It's responsible for what we call executive functions, decision-making, problem-solving, and, crucially, simulating the future. Our brains are prediction machines. We are constantly running little simulations in our heads. What if I do this? Then that will probably happen. If I want to achieve that goal, what steps do I need to take first? This ability to mentally time travel, to project ourselves into a multitude of possible futures and weigh the outcomes, is the foundation of our planning ability. The second, and perhaps most important, ingredient is language. Language allows us to make our plans shared. I can tell you my plan. You can point out a flaw in it, We can work together to create a better plan. Language allows us to create abstract concepts like justice, government, or science. These concepts are the basis for our most ambitious long-term plans. We can plan to build a cathedral that will take hundreds of years to complete, knowing that we will never see it finished. We can plan a mission to Mars, a multi-decade project involving thousands of people and technologies that haven't been fully invented yet. We pass these plans down from one generation to the next through written language. The plan becomes bigger than any single individual. This kind of large-scale, multi-generational planning is what has allowed humans to dominate the planet. Our ability to cooperate and plan together allowed us to hunt massive animals, build cities, develop agriculture, and create global civilizations. Agriculture itself is a monumental feat of future planning. It's the decision to not eat all the seeds you have now, but to plant them in the ground, tend them for months, and trust that you will have a much bigger harvest in the future. It's a bet against a certain present for the sake of an uncertain, but potentially much better future. So, how did this anomaly, this hyperplanning ape, evolve? The leading theories suggest it was a feedback loop between our growing brains, our complex social lives, and our tool use. As our ancestors began to live in larger, more complex social groups, they needed more brain power to keep track of social relationships. Who is an ally? Who is a rival? Who owes me a favor? Planning and predicting the behavior of others became a crucial survival skill. At the same time as we began to make more complex tools, we needed to plan more. You have to plan the steps to make a good stone axe. You have to find the right kind of rock, find another rock to shape it with, and then carefully chip away at it. This requires foresight and a sequence of planned actions. This created a spiral. Smarter individuals with a better capacity for planning were more successful in their social groups and better at making tools. They survived and had more kids, passing on their genes for bigger brains. Bigger brains allowed for even more complex social structures and better tools, which in turn demanded even more planning ability. Language likely evolved right in the middle of this, allowing us to supercharge our ability to plan and cooperate. So we have our answer. We have come full circle. The process of evolution cannot plan. It is a blind reactive force. It has no goals and no foresight. It just sorts through the random variations that life throws up and keeps what works in the immediate present. It is the blind watchmaker assembling things without any understanding of the final product. But this same blind, purposeless process, through the relentless logic of natural selection, stumbled upon a trick. It discovered that one of the best ways to survive the present is to have some ability to anticipate the future. So, evolution began to favor creatures that could plan. It started simply. It built unconscious plans directly into the DNA of animals as instincts. Bury a nut, fly south, hibernate. These are genetic blueprints for dealing with a predictable future. Then, it went further. It built brains that could learn and remember, allowing creatures to create flexible, short-term plans to solve novel problems. A chimp making a tool. A crow using a car to crack a nut. And finally, in one lineage of apes, it went all the way. It built a brain so complex that it could imagine countless possible futures, a brain that could handle abstract ideas. It coupled that brain with language, allowing these plans to be shared, refined, and passed down through generations. It created us. So, could they plan for the future? Evolution couldn't, but it's the reason that we can. It's a strange paradox. The ultimate source of all the purpose, all the foresight, and all the planning in the living world is a process that has none of its own. From a blind and random beginning, we get the squirrel burying its nut for winter, and we get the scientist planning a mission to a distant star. It's all part of the same long, unguided story.